Welcome to Moments, the podcast, where we have conversations that matter. Hi, everyone. My name is Vasia Makris, your host and founder of Moments, a creative agency bridging art, culture, and technology. Joined by my amazing co-host, HardArt, each week we host a live X space deep diving into hot topics that are shaping the Web3 ecosystem.
GM. Thank you, Mr. DJ. That was a pretty. I love just waiting to see what kind of songs Milton's going to introduce us with because I feel like he's such a range of genres. But that woke me up. I like it. Don't give me a thumbs down. GM Milton, it's good to have you on. Thanks for coming on to co-host. Trevor immediately requested speaker, so I'm going to shout out and say GM to Trevor as well. What's up, guys? How are you?
Hey, GM. Go ahead, Trevor.
Oh, yeah, good. Can you hear me? Is that all right?
Yeah, we
Can you
got
hear
you.
me?
Yep.
All right.
Good.
I was just I'm just actually out going for Violet took me for my daily walk, so I got the headphones on right now. She's popped in a little, grab some food. I'm heading walking back to the studio to shutter close it down, and then we're gonna go have some dinner. But we did not want to miss your first episode of the most amazing, crazy duo in the space. I hope you guys aren't leaving my Crypto Angels Twitter space or X space now that you're big and famous.
I love it. No, that's first of all, I love that Violet takes care of you and makes sure that you have some time to leave the studio. Yes, no, we're definitely not leaving your weekly Crypto Angel Spaces. It's actually what inspired it. I think after hosting, so for those that don't know, Milton and I host weekly Twitter Spaces for Trevor and the Crypto Angels community. It's every Thursday at noon Eastern. So make sure to join us if you haven't done so already. But it's, I think, what kind of inspired Milton and I, because we've been talking about it for a while. But I do think he's officially taken the title as my favorite co-host, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So we thought, let's bridge out and let's start having conversations outside of, just the Crypto Angels community about, other things that we see going on in the space. And, hopefully we can add some value and more importantly, open up the conversation for others to join as well. Because I'm all about creating an environment where people feel comfortable to share their takes. We all have different perspectives and backgrounds, and it's conversations that need to be had in this space. So we're starting off with one that is super near and dear to my heart. My background being in education and why I think onboarding is important, but more importantly, not, I feel like everyone talks about the importance of onboarding, and that's nice and all, but how do we actually do it? I'm the girl that wants like the action steps and things that I can follow up on. And I think the conversation needs to be had. So I'm excited to just get the conversation going. There's a couple of things Milton and I want to bring up, but I just want to make it super clear to everyone listening. We also want you guys to feel comfortable enough to request and join the conversation. And, feel free to disagree with us too. I'm all about constructive criticism and feedback. And again, just having conversations. So I'm going to start it there. Milton, I don't know if you want to say GM and kind of give a little intro, but yeah, I'm excited to kick off our weekly Wednesday spaces.
GM. What Crypto Angel space? We're on to bigger and better things, Trevor. Um, no, of course we'll be there tomorrow as we are every week. We're at 25 weeks in a row next week, so I'm stoked to get the conversation started tomorrow at noon, as we always do. But I am really stoked to get this convo started today with the onboarding discussion. We've got lots of great examples of people who are doing this around us at any given time in Web3. So it's nice to have some of those people in the crowd. Trevor himself, F Dot's here, Math. So Sinbad, the sailor's with us as well. I just got to meet him at the Subjective Art Fair in New York. So it's nice to have these positive examples, but we could definitely use more of this. I joked in the post this morning, my GM post, retweeting the space, was saying, let's get out of our circle jerk and try to bring some new blood in. So I think that's the mission. I think it's an important one, and no better person to give us the secret sauce than Vasia. So yeah, stoked to get this conversation started. And a quick reminder to everybody who's in the room, please do us a big favor, and we want some engagement. So I only see 3 retweets and 3 likes. Let's get that number equal to the people in the room. We've already got 16 people in counting. Let's spread that to the Xverse. So give this some love, give it a retweet, give it a comment. That'll always help. And I would echo what Vasia said. This should be a conversational space. So as much as we like talking, I oftentimes prefer to hear what you have to say. So please don't hesitate to hit the request button, get up on stage, and share your information with us. We'd love to have you. A quick shout out or two or 10. We've got Rachel Wood in the building with us. What's up, Rachel? Zara Baez here. F. Dot I mentioned. Violet Jones is in the house. What's up, Violet? David Oxley's here with us. Freddie Numbers, Jose Antonio, Math, Gringo Hoddle. We were on a space with him earlier. Thanks again for bringing us on, Gringo. Sinbad, Barbie, Ares, Crypt Tui, one of our Archangels friends, and D is with us. So, again, do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that retweet, and please don't hesitate to hit the request button and jump on stage with us. Cheers.
I know Rachel just requested, so I'm actually going to hand her the mic and say, quick GM. Rachel, it's been forever. Lisbon feels like way too long ago. So thanks for, first of all, joining. And actually, also thank you for being our community spotlight tomorrow on our Crypto Angel space. I'm excited to get you on stage for tomorrow as well. I'm going to just give you the mic to say, quick GM.
GM, thanks so much for having me. And I'm very excited about tomorrow as well. I'm also super, super excited about this topic of onboarding and how to do it.
Well, I know we've been talking about a couple different things that you're working on, and I think those are just additional great examples in terms of how to onboard. We're going to jump into it in a second. I just want to also say GM to Gringo, who is actually on a space earlier today with Milton and Trevor. And I mean, talking about onboarding, he's all into the video games and that whole other sector of the industry. So I think that's another big thing about onboarding. Gringo, before we get into it, I just want to say a quick GM. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thank you so much. Good morning. And thanks for joining the Web3 Breakfast Club this morning. It was great seeing you all on there. That was fun.
No, it was great listening into you guys. And thanks again for just introducing us to another community and kind of, we're going to be talking about breaking into new audiences. And I think that's a huge part of onboarding as well. Like, how do we get exposure from different people instead of talking to the same echo chamber? So I guess, Milton, we can kind of just jump right in. And again, as people want to request and join, if you're not able to speak, but you want to drop some notes in the comments, feel free to do so as well. I'll be checking those throughout the space. I guess as we first talk about onboarding, I think it's important to first establish what exactly I mean by onboarding, and I'm sure each of us have our own definitions, but when I refer to onboarding, I think it's really comes down to bringing in new people into Web3 in general. So bringing in new consumers, a new user base, and just increasing the amount of people that are here. Not only getting them to use and understand the technology, but ultimately bringing in more users and more money into the space, especially during, bear markets as well. We can't constantly rely on the same people and the same communities. I think it's important to obviously acknowledge how much building is going on, how much experimenting is going on in this space. And it's, incredible to see all the different ideas and the innovation. People are building new projects. There's new art collections going on all the time. We've seen so many layer twos. Like, the space just continues to develop and grow. And I want to acknowledge that. And I want to say that it's obviously great that that's happening. But a personal observation is that within the last year or two, I feel like there's also been a decrease in the amount of focus we've been putting on onboarding and educating. And there's obviously, I think, a problem when we're talking about longevity. If we don't have enough people here, or enough new people knowing about all these new developments and all about the new projects, like, how long is that going to actually last? How sustainable is that if we don't have enough people kind of interacting and engaging in it? So that's why I feel like onboarding is a huge conversation, and why it's important, because what are we all going to do here in a couple of years if it's again not growing and including new people? So that was kind of why I think onboarding is important. Milton, I don't know if you want to jump in and add anything.
No, it's exactly right. Unfortunately, I think the trend right now is not just maintaining who's here, the proverbial circle jerk that I called it, which is great. We've got a great core group of people that's here with us day in, day out, and I love them to death. However, I think it's actually been a war of attrition. So I was just chatting about this with a friend of mine today. Like we've seen some of the best artists and collectors, for that matter, unfortunately disappear from the space. Sometimes it's justified. A lot of times it's not. And even if it is, I feel like a lot of artists in particular have had bad press releases regarding why they are leaving. It's okay to take mental breaks and it's okay to take pauses, but I think one of the big takeaways that I have as a collector is as soon as we see an artist exit the space, it's been hell for their collection, for their collectors. It's been reflected heavily on the secondary. And so, yeah, it's not only just bringing in new blood, but keeping the ones that we've got. And so, yeah, I'm with you. We have a ton of experimentation, innovation, growth to be proud of, but we definitely need to keep those that we have here and bring in new blood to keep the space alive. So I like where this conversation's going.
That's actually a really good point. I didn't even think about that. Like making sure the ones that are here are still standing. So, I mean, I guess that segues us to the $1 million question. I mean, how do we onboard? And specifically, how do we onboard the right way? I'm going to just bring up three things that come to mind immediately for me, my kind of trifecta, and I would love to hear what other people's takes are. But the first things that pop into my head when I'm thinking about onboarding is education, IRL events and experiences, and brands. And I'll go into detail in a little bit regarding each of those, but I want to hand off the mic, Milton, if you have anything that you want to add in terms of like what comes into your mind when you think of onboarding?
Yeah, to me, onboarding is really red pilling people, hopefully with as little jargon that we use as possible. If you can get them to kind of swallow the red pill, so to speak, and obfuscate everything that's behind the scenes happening with crypto wallets, with the forbidden word NFT. If you can get a physical in their hand and then get them to interact on a second level on the digital side. I think that's a great red pill. I think augmented reality is a really great pill. Good example of that, for instance, is Trevor, obviously, who's in the room, who's been developing that tech for so many years, but that opens people's eyes to this digital side. If they can see the value of the digital that comes to life from a physical print, for example, then they can start to see the value in having the digital itself. The digital itself appears to have value and could be a completely separate piece that you could own. There's another friend of mine that was at the Subjective Art Fair named Visceral Glitch, and I've got a tweet that I can pin here where you can see he goes out to Normieville, aka Prospect Park in New York City, where there is nothing Web3 happening at all. He's at a pop-up shop at a farmer's market. He said the person next to him is selling sea moss to his left, and the person to his right is selling organic mushrooms, not the psychedelic kind in public, but the edible kind, the nutritious kind. But either way, he is selling his art there. He's selling augmented reality. Um, he's selling prints and he is selling postcards at a really reasonable price point. And the people that approach it, he makes sure to show them the Art of Vive app that comes to life and drops everybody's jaw the first time that they see it. So I think these are important onboarding missions, like getting out of our bubble. Web3 IRL events are great, as we know. But I think you've noticed, it's hard to step two steps without seeing somebody that you know and getting into conversations because we all know each other. So we'll talk about the importance of IRL events, but like I think even getting outside of those Web3 conferences, the consensuses, the Lisbons, um, and just doing some normie stuff like that is really a great example of kind of stepping outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah, I totally agree. Honestly, you mentioned a lot of things that I want to circle back to, but on the last note that you mentioned, outside of our Web3 bubble, totally. And I just got back from Europe and I was in Athens for a bit and I went to a contemporary art fair in Athens and met a lot of people from the traditional art world and people that were just, guests and coming to visit and all that. And I think, a lot of mixed responses, let's put it that way. I think a lot of this goes back to honestly the education component. There were some people that had heard of the word NFT and Web3 and digital art, and they had reactions like it's a scam, and obviously the stigma that's associated around it that still exists, unfortunately, which to me just shows that there's still so much education that still needs to be done. And then you had people that honestly had never heard of it before. There was a few that were interested and kind of wanted to have further discussions, but I think it really goes back to the fact that we still have so much to do regarding education. And you just mentioned the AR component. I think that's a great spark to the conversation. I mean, we were both at Bitcoin Nashville with Trevor and Violet, and being able to show people the prints. And you just mentioned Visceral Glitch and what he's doing at Prospect Park. That's, I think, awesome as well. You're essentially using a physical item, something that people are familiar with, and obviously gravitate towards, to essentially hook them and then include the AR component. So I think that's a super cool way. And obviously, Trevor, if you want to jump in, feel free to. But I love watching as people react to the AR. I think that's been, it doesn't matter the ages. Most people still haven't seen the AR implementation yet. So being able to take a print and then, show the AR overlay through something very easy and seamless, I think it just hooks a lot of people and then opens up the conversation. And one of the easiest onboarders we've always pretty much said has been art. I mean, it's very easy to understand. I don't think you need to dive really deep. People are just fascinated at the fact that something physical like a print can all of a sudden come to life and have audio and animation and all these other components. And for them, it's like, okay, well, why not, add this? It's obviously super cool, and they don't need to understand the tech in a very deep way. So I definitely think the education kind of immediately bridges right into the IRL components as well. So yeah, I think good points. Trevor, I don't know if there's something you want to personally add with the AR overlays, but
Yeah, I mean, just really art first and foremost is, so I got into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and trading back in kind of mid 2017. There was a big boom then, the bull run, ICOs, the initial coin offerings, tons of scams, all the degeneracy that you could possibly imagine. That's not left, that's still here. But really what it was just pure financial speculation. And when art came onto the scene through non-fungible tokens, there became that emotional connection that people all of a sudden now had something. It wasn't just a string of numbers and letters that go up and go down with magic internet money, that actually here's a piece of art that's been created by an artist that has meaning and significance and relevance and beauty and colors and animation and music and all these different things that, as we progressed through the progression of NFTs themselves. And I think that's what really, really kicked off a lot of what's happened in the space over the last, let's say, 4 years or so, even maybe a little bit longer than that. So I think just, having art or music, something that's more human, that's been probably the biggest onboarder of this space since the beginning of blockchain technology, which is great, and that will continue. I mean, I don't know what the future holds, maybe devil's advocate, that it's not going to be a bunch of degens like us doing Twitter spaces. It's going to, and talking about onboarding. Who knows? It might be, well, okay, eBay dropped the ball. I'm not sure what Amazon's doing, but, Starbucks, is it, what's going to happen, in the big grand scheme of things? How is that going to affect? Who knows? Maybe BlackRock's going to start their own NFT marketplace. But yeah, I think art's been a great thing, and yeah, I agree. Also, like things like augmented reality. I was using AR back in 2012, 2013. So people didn't even know what it was. But the crazy thing is, and Vasia and Milton, you can you can agree with me here that even just at Bitcoin Nashville just a few months back, it's still the showcasing augmented reality with art blows people away on a regular basis, and which is crazy. You think this is like a high tech conference. These are all apparently, allegedly, tech natives that are all in on new innovation technology, and yet most of the people there had never seen augmented reality artwork. So it is a very, very cool way in to get that conversation started. It's a shame that what has happened over the last few years with scams and rug pulls and NFT and the bad press it's got. So we're kind of starting on the back foot again, but we're getting there. I also agree with you, Milton, that it is very much a circle jerk right now. It seems that there hasn't been much of a real kind of push towards onboarding, but there are still people doing that. A good example is Club Divin, the Web3 wine company. They sponsored the Castle Party last year. They're amazing. Give them a follow. They are really working super hard on traveling the world, going to different conferences, going to different events, and also they have they have the second best thing to art. They've got wine. People love, and together they're the perfect pair, wine and art. So that is another way in, and they are onboarding people in through love of wine and ownership, high-end wine, not just drinking it, but also collecting it for value, and all through blockchain technology. So, there are companies out there are people out there who are still pushing the needle, but it's not as hardcore as it was a couple of years ago. But we'll get there, And going back on my devil's advocacy thing, it's people like you, Vasia and Milton, who are definitely all in on this space as well, and absolutely love working with you guys. And if we can just kind of multiply you by about 10,000, we'd be laughing. Well, maybe Vasia, maybe not HardArt.
10,000 of Milton, I think we would be in trouble, but appreciate the sentiment, Trevor. And no, thank you very much. And I honestly, I'm glad you brought up Divin. I'm really excited to hopefully see them back at Castle Party 2025. But it's exactly those types of experiences, those IRL activations, and, people that are creating those meaningful things that people understand, and they're connecting it with something they're familiar with, like wine. And that's like the hook, essentially, that introduces the technology and all of that. And I love it. I just want to mention to those in the audience as well, if there's anyone that that's similar that you think might be a great example, there's so much going on in this space, it's kind of impossible to know what everyone's working on. If you want to tag people in the comments as well, would love to check people's pages out afterwards and kind of see what else is out there. Okay, I see a couple of hands up, so I'm going to go in order.
Can I butt in here real quick? Because I think actually on the stage, Violet was here, and I think it's a perfect time to introduce her because I have a little anecdote about
Ladies
onboarding.
first.
Ladies first, yeah. Anyways, but I'm sitting here looking at Violet's collection called Murakami, Myself, and AI, which is a lovely title, by the way. And I know, Vasia, that's sitting behind you at your desk right now, if I remember correctly, after
favorite
one of the
collection.
pieces. But this was actually a really good way to onboard my grandma. Not that she's bought in per se, but at least buying in on the idea. My grandma's a painter. And so I was telling my grandma about how Violet uses the Starry AI app to feed a model that helps her develop some iterations of her own style, and then pick out maybe 1 in 10 that she really likes. A lot of times the AI produces garbage, as we know, but sometimes it spits out a gem. And then she uses that to, in turn, paint an image. So that actually resonated with my grandma because she doesn't buy into all this computer generated art. She's been painting by hand for ages now, decades, and this is something that connected, like, oh, okay, that makes more sense to me. So I'd love to hear Violet chime in on this conversation. Plus, she's got the AR, which we were speaking about, overlay on that work as well. Violet, GM.
GM. It's actually closer to GM here, but okay. Can you hear me all okay? Because I'm on my headphones. But thank you. So I'm so happy to hear that anecdote. I don't think you've ever mentioned that before. So basically, like I use AI as a springboard for reference images, and that could encourage other artists that are against technology to kind of even research that area and how that can facilitate generating new ideas, shapes, forms, and something that they would never explore before. And that's when I wanted to, sorry, I'm walking, that's why I'm prompting. So that's something that I wanted to talk about. Like, for those who are super unfamiliar with the whole digital realm, the easiest way to onboard people like that is through little steps. Like, artists can show other artists how to incorporate digital aspect like AR or like AI into their practices. And collectors could basically showcase the art they collect on their walls. But from what I understand, many collectors do not have screens. They just keep the art in the wallets and nobody sees it. How many times you've got friends coming over and they look at your art, and I know that a lot of people coming to our home always look at our art and are very impressed with the art. And this is a conversation starter. So basically, instead of aiming really big, especially for those who do not maybe have connections, this is a little thing. One person tells another person, then they share their Instagram or some other platforms they can see and research a little bit more. And step by step, we basically collect more people who will at least look into this world, because we live in a bubble. And like Trevor said, like AR is really impressing people because we assume everybody knows what AR is. People don't know. They don't even know that filters are basically AR. So like introducing people into this world little step at the time. Do you remember when credit cards came in or debit cards? Like basically online banking. Everybody was against that. The internet itself, people were saying like, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do online shopping. And it's all super normal. And this world, Web3, is going to be as normal as all the other things. But step by step, let's not maybe shoot for the stars straight away or think extremely big. Think around you. Think about all the people that come visit you, you talk to, and let's start small and grow big together.
Yeah, I think word of mouth, Violet, is huge. And it's so funny. I mean, I don't know how many people might feel the same, but especially when I first entered Web3, it felt like a double identity where most people in my regular like Web2 life had no clue what I was doing and, what any of this was about. And slowly, I think if all of us kind of just onboarded our closest friends, family, etc., people that were closest to us, I think that on its own has a huge impact. I do want to mention that you and Trevor not only hang art, you guys have like a museum basically going on in your house. But no, I think that's exactly what you said. It's a great way to onboard. And Milton is right. I do have, which I pinned up top for those that are maybe not familiar with that collection, but it is one of my favorite collections from you. I do have one of the paintings in my home, and anyone that comes over, I'm like, yeah, isn't it beautiful? But check this out. And then they scan it with the AR. And again, it just sparks that conversation in a very organic and interesting way, which is, I think, so crucial. Like, we're not trying to shove it down someone's throat, and we're not trying to be, aggressive and annoying. We're trying to do it in a fun and engaging and meaningful way. And that's how people, I think, are going to remember it. So yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that. I think word of mouth is by far one of the things that we can all do today. It's one of the very simple, actionable steps that can happen at any time.
And especially, Vasia, sorry to chime in, but especially since NFT became kind of a dirty word, and like after all the scams and meme coins being thrown into the same pot and people not having this understanding, it's really difficult to communicate in any other way than just face to face, actually showing people what it is and how it's dealt with. Because like trying to educate people online in posts, you're just preaching to the choir. People who love this stuff and are in this Web3, they're going to agree with you, but very rarely happens that you're going to convince anybody new. So I think the interactions face to face and education face to face and presentation of the art and the space, or through wine or clothing or anything else, is the key to success here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like you said, in different ways that are meaningful. And yeah, I mean, I could talk about this all day. I want to give the mic to Gringo because I know he jumped back in. And thank you for being a gentleman and letting Violet go first.
Yeah,
As
no
I say,
problem. It's actually great to hear different people speak, get to know everyone in the community better. So that was cool. Great info from Violet. That was, I agree with, pretty much everything. Onboarding is a challenge, but I think we can do it. Few things just to follow up on the conversations from earlier. That was really interesting about the DVIN. You said like with wine authenticity and all that. I know that was a big problem. Wasn't there a big counterfeit issue in the wine world? I know there was that documentary on Netflix. So the idea of provenance and verifying authenticity on blockchains sounds like a massive use case. That sounds very bullish. Also, Milton, you said something about onboarding your grandmother. My mother, she has been listening to me speaking on Spaces recently, and she heard me this morning, and she was like, I really want to get a Trevor Jones piece. If you could help me, so I'm gonna onboard mom. Just so everyone knows, gonna onboard mom to Crypto Angels and Dante's Pixel Inferno. And then another thing, you mentioned education. One really interesting project with Animoca Brands is Open Campus. That's a Web3 education platform. I think they have a lot of promise, so that's something to look into. I'll post pins of this stuff on the board there if that's all right.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, and then one last thing. One other thing. I guess two more things. Trevor had mentioned BlackRock NFT Marketplace. That's not too far off from my research. I know BlackRock has BUIDL, which is a fund for RWA, real world assets, which, this community has been involved in that. I know Trevor has done work between the physical and digital art space and back and forth. So that's interesting. But also Goldman Sachs is starting an RWA marketplace that I know of. And most importantly, I don't know if anyone remembers a few years ago, the New York Stock Exchange filed a patent for a NFT marketplace. And then we stopped hearing about it. My guess is they're building that, and it's going to launch very, very soon, along with the Amazon NFT marketplace, which people stopped talking about. But as of today, there was new news about gaming on Amazon. So Amazon has a video game platform, and they're helping to build a Web3 gaming platform into Amazon. So mass adoption's coming, and I think gaming will be a huge use case. I love how Dante's Pixel Inferno has handled it with the free to play. Great way to onboard. And one last thing, how cool was that to connect two different worlds? And I just loved, I could see the commonalities between the communities, but it's still a bridge to build between the Web3 Breakfast Club crew and this community, which is more on the fine art side traditionally, but getting into gaming. So it's cool to connect these communities. And I just loved having you guys on. Thanks for showing up there. I know the guys at Web3 Breakfast Club really appreciate it too. But that's what's so special about Web3 community building. Look at the bridges you can build with a few commonalities. Because I know there's some MMA fans in the crowd. I know Violet, shout out, and Trevor, and I know there's that MMA channel in the Discord. So how cool is it to bridge these communities and then find these commonalities? It's like with Web3 community building, you can curate your communities and curate the friends that you have interest in. I grew up out in country, out in Kansas, so I can hang, I go on the Web3 Breakfast Club with those Southern gentlemen, and then I can come over to the fine art world, because traveling was a big part of my past and going to museums, and I've always had an interest in art. And just to bridge the two communities, you can't do that in any other form of industry and marketing ever in history. Okay, thank you.
No, thank you for jumping in, Gringo. That's what I love, hearing people's different backgrounds and experiences, and Web3 has definitely opened up so many different bridges and ability to do so. Thank you for mentioning all of the things that you did. I actually had no idea about the Amazon marketplace and all these things. So again, this is why I love people jumping in and contributing to the conversation. There's a couple of great comments I'm going to talk about a little bit later. I see James has a hands up, and Milton, I'll let you jump in. I think you wanted to respond to Gringo, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say to Gringo, if that's not an impetus to get people involved yourself before the blood-sucking corporations, Amazon, BlackRock, and NYSE get involved, then I don't know what is. So get your ass out there and get people onboarded first,
Absolutely.
where they can learn the real Web3. I mean, it's a quick anecdote too. I mean, it is important to have those rails. But God, if I had the ability to learn from somebody before I got involved, and I'll always give credit where credit's due to Nifty Gateway, where I started my collection, which is a Web 2.5 platform. It has its own self-custody wallet to where I didn't have to understand what the hell a wallet was, and I could pay via credit card. But in all honesty, you know, my name's HardArt. I think hard things are good. You know, nothing good comes easily. I wish if I could go back in time that I would have actually had to do the homework and done the hard thing, which was figure out the wallets and go buy art and learn about art on a true Web3 platform. I think I would be better off today and be honestly prouder of my collection. Not speaking of any Trevor's pieces, which I still love and cherish, of course, but of a lot of things that I bought on speculation because I could with a credit card. So, yeah, get the fuck out there and onboard people before these big ass corporations do so, because I have a feeling you're going to onboard them in a more organic fashion than these other blood sucking companies will. So, that's just my 2 cents. But I do see a hand up. We promised Wizard James that he was going to get up on stage, so I want to introduce Wizard. How you doing, Wizard? And congratulations on your super rare acceptance. That's huge, huge news. Good to hear from you. We got to catch up. I haven't heard from you in a while. How you been, man?
Good, good. Hey, I'm not here to shill my super rare announcement, bro, but thank you for
I did it
that.
for you anyways.
I'm still here just daydreaming about 10,000 Meltons. So I'll give me a sec.
Well, there's going to be no wine to speak of if there's 10,000 Miltons. So Divin is going to have something to say about that.
Yeah, no, you guys are. It's so good to hear your guys' voices. I love you guys. And I think that there's kind of a couple points I wanted to make, which was like I'm not particularly worried about the onboarding question myself. One, because we have people like you and Vasia and the gang, Trevor, Violet, everyone who like are on it already, and two, mainly like I think there's a couple of big things that appeal about Web3, and I think like that's true both for artists, collectors, and just people in general. The first one is that it's just so welcoming, actually. Like when I first was saying this, so I've been in doing the Web3 thing for like a couple of years now, and I've been saying this all along, and people have often been like, "Hang on a sec, you know, there's also scammers, and like you can get wrecked, and like you got to worry about, you know, to keep vigilant about the people who are trying to rip you off." And I'm like, one, I haven't really seen much of that, and two, what I guess I have seen it a little bit, but what I've mostly seen is a community that's like so awesome and welcoming, which has been great because I'm kind of, I don't know, kind of consider myself a bit of a latchkey guy. Just kind of like felt somewhat communityless or something. And I just sort of wandered into Web3, got hired to do a project that, and just kept hanging out because like, it's so welcoming. Like everyone is so lovely here. It's such a great community. It's like you go to any Web3 event and you instantly have like tons of new friends and supportive people. And unlike I work in film and animation, unlike in film and animation when you get these kind of like celebrity types or people who like fancy themselves celebrities who are kind of like skeptical of everyone around them all the time. That is not the vibe in Web3 at all. In Web3, you can waltz in and just be, you know, like wander up to Trevor Jones and like, you know, 2 hours later you consider him one of like your best friends. I think that's like really unique and amazing about Web3, and that's just going to keep. It's just going to keep being a magnet. Like I think there's kind of like the opposite feel, like the repulsiveness to the technology. Like a lot of people are technophobe Luddites who are like, I'm scared of NFTs or whatever. But I think just the vibes still just wins, you know, every time. So if like the vibes stay good, which I think they will, you know, there's some other artists here like Vasia and Violet, I mean, and Rachel Wood, who are also just like ridiculously talented, amazing, well-known, awesome artists who also just were instant friends and super welcoming. And there's no like, I don't experience these like egos, these like douchey egos in this space that would
You've
otherwise.
talked to Milton, haven't you?
Yeah, no, you're right.
And just give me a chance, man.
I love that. Yeah. No, you're right. Although 10,000 mountains don't tempt me with a good time. Oh, okay, so let me stop like gushing. That's point number one. Point number two is sorry, delve back into point number one for a sec. It's just like an awesome party, like vibe, like welcoming to everyone, nerds, cool people, like everyone's fucking welcome. Everyone is your friend, like instantly, like, I don't know. It's very like, maybe it's a little cultish or something. But it's just like the more the merrier. Come on down. Like you're a nerdy computer geek. You're a cool person. You're an artist. You're an entrepreneur. You just want to hang out. Like either way, it's like come on down. Everyone's welcome, and the water's fine or whatever. Which I love. Like that was not the feeling that I've had at all in my like film career. Or nor just kind of general social life. So that's something that's like been really huge, and I think will continue to attract people. And the second thing is the art scene is so cool. Like it's like a renaissance or something. Like I think and it's like this really like nice smelling pie on the windows still that like all the animators and people in my circle like are all sniffing, and they all like think they should hate it, but they're all like, tell me more, so like I'm constantly onboarding people. Like the art scene is just like, I don't know, it seems like it's a really like cool avant-garde next level, like there's a whole like this is historical, and I think like just kind of the more that we stick with it and the more like I guess I'm saying I'm not worried because like it's so fucking cool here, like, and it seems like it's only just getting cooler and cooler the more technological stuff that comes out. Like the more events, like the Canal Street Show in New York recently. Like it seems like people who don't attend these things FOMO massively, and like in general, like a lot of the fine artists I know are asking me like, how do I get involved? How do like tell me more? So yeah, like I'm not particularly worried. I think it's a really cool space that we're all in, and it's just going to keep attracting people. I think like you guys can figure out the nitty gritty of how to make the technology a little less scary to Luddites, but I think that'll come. Um, and yeah, that's kind of my rambling contribution to this conversation. And love you guys. And yeah, let's get 10,000 Miltons. Maybe that's an AR app that we can build.
To be honest, out of everyone, you're the wizard, so it's scary to me that you actually want 10,000 Miltons. But no, James, thanks for tuning in and just sharing your 2 cents. And yeah, we need to catch up, but it's been great just listening to what you were saying. And I mean, just to reiterate, I think you touch a lot about the IRL component and the importance of, meeting people in person and your personal experiences, meeting people like Trevor and Violet and Rachel. And I know we had a blast in Lisbon, and there's so many examples as to, good in-person events. And, Trevor's not going to shill it, but I kind of will, because Castle Party 2024 was 23. Oh my God. Castle Party 2023 was in France last year. And talk about onboarding. I brought my sister, my sister from New York, my cousin from London, and my best friend who lives in Amsterdam. And I was just like, ladies, you're going to come with me to this castle. We're going to just stay. It's a party. Like, don't worry, just book a ticket. And they did. And yeah, talk about drinking the Kool-Aid. And now they're hitting me up like, when's the next one? And they know more about art scenes, and they know more about a lot of money auction and like the contribution to charity through NFTs and all this, like all these other components. They did go on the Divine Wine tour. So again, I think the IRL is a huge conversation in terms of opportunity to onboard and to bring people in. I'm not going to hog the mic more because I do see a lot of hands up. Rachel, I believe, was next. I'm going to hand it to her. GM Rachel, go ahead.
Hey, so I have like 6 points, so I can go at the end. Everyone else can like talk before me, but they're 6 points, but they're short points. But yeah, other people can go before me before I just like, share my thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I think I don't know who's next. TC Harris, maybe, or Gray. I don't know.
I think
Someone
actually
can feel
Brain
free.
Pasta was next, and I want to say Plotsky, then Gray, then TC Harris, I believe.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you guys have hands? I don't
No
know.
problem. No
Someone
problem. Anyone. Actually, TC was first. He was before me.
Yeah, I don't have my hand up. He could talk. I do have stuff to say, but I'm down to wait.
Okay. Let me talk first. I'm very happy to hear some guests, HardArt and Violet, and some other guys here to talk about the Web3 and how to do in the future. Honestly, I respect all the artists and the filmmaker and the music maker and everybody, the creator, to make the world beautiful, bring us enjoy and bring us entertainment. But in the Web3 now is very embarrassing because honestly, I work in the app, the application. We work for several years to bring the blockchain to life, to the real application. But honestly, when we see the open sea, everything, the NFT marketplace, we are disappointed because of course, AI art is also art, but it's different from the human being. So we built something to to something different from the open sea. Why? Because we want to put more thing in the NFT. What more is the recording from the artist, the drawings, the picture, and the drawings, how the how it created. We need to put the recordings in the NFT together, but nobody's do now. So we brings a DApp to let the people put the videos, put the PDF together in the NFT to raise their value. This is what we do.
Great. Thanks, TC. Yeah, appreciate it. And apps are a huge part of the space, making sure that people actually are able to interact easily. Again, I talk about obfuscating. So if you can put the things under the hood behind the scenes, I think that's super important. But I appreciate your take on that. And I'm looking forward to hearing. We've got tons of hands raised. So thanks for everybody for being so polite. Nobody wanted to jump up on stage.
Thank you.
Yeah, great viewpoint, and I appreciate you connecting and jumping on stage with us today, and giving us your point of view on that. So let's jump to hands that are up. I think Brain Pasta had your hand up next, Gray, and then Rachel. Brain Pasta, what's going on?
Yeah, so I was just gonna mention, what's up, everybody? Brain Pasta here. Friends with HardArt, friends with Vasia. Hung out with them. Met Vasia in Lisbon. Met HardArt at tons of different events. But yeah. So the amount of possibilities in Web3 are they just go on forever. I mean, look at Plotsky. She got a job working with a I can't remember who you work with now. I could just check your Super Chief.
Yeah.
Super Chief, yeah. Plotsky's working with Super Chief. I met her just as a collector in the beginning of the space, and now she's working with a big brand. Big brand as in big culture brand. Like you could do lots of things. Like there's grants available. There's people. The amount of people that you can meet that contribute to your whole life is insane. So just be present, don't be afraid to say hello. Don't be afraid to poke the bear and ask questions, and also stand up, stand out. And that's how we get things moving and rattling the rattle is not always a bad thing. It's usually a good thing. get in good trouble. Anyways, that's all I had to say for now.
I like that, getting into good trouble. Thank you so much for jumping on stage. It's good hearing from you. Not to shift the order, but since you did call out Plotsky, and I know she's been up here, and I'm glad we got to meet IRL this weekend at Subjective Art Fair at Loom Studio. I just want to mention Super Chief and what they've been doing. And obviously, many of you might know me from the Crypt Gallery and kind of the IRL presence that we had in terms of our focus on onboarding as well. So for sure, those are two things that I just wanted to emphasize. And not to shake up again the order, but Plotsky, if you wanted to jump in since we mentioned Super Chief and talk a little bit about what you guys are doing. And, I think you were wanting to contribute to the conversation. I'm going to hand you the mic real quick.
Sure. Thank you. And yeah, long time no see. It was so nice meeting you in person. The Subjective Art Fair was amazing. Like, I think I've had the best conversations this weekend that I've had at like any event because I don't know, the vibe was great. The 3 days was great. Um, with the onboarding stuff, gosh, I could talk all day about it, which I won't. But don't you think that, I don't know, it just seems like if you're involved in this space and it's just kind of being honest about what you're doing and what everyone's doing and the opportunity that there is for artists to take control of what they're doing. You can work with someone like Super Chief. You can put your stuff on Super Rare. You can use Magic Eden, or you can write your own contract or use one that's written and put it on your own website. But no one can stop you from sharing your art and also being able to sell your art to a very large audience. So, the opportunities for artists are unlimited, and so much stuff is just being created every day. And the opportunities are there to be involved with forming that, And then, like I said, the fair was this weekend. I ended up, when I checked into my hotel across the street, I was talking to the guy there. He asked what I was there for, like the person at the desk. And he wasn't familiar with Loom, which I was at the hotel right across the street. He didn't know what went on there. He had seen it, but he didn't know what ever went on. So I explained it to him, and he was an artist and he works there, and then I gave him a 3-day pass. He showed up and we had like about a 40-minute conversation, and I was just being honest about what I do, the things that are possible, what I've seen other people do. He was like welling up because he was like, I knew something like this would happen. He got the job there to be around the art scene that's coming through that hotel and in the neighborhood. And there's nothing really to sell to people or to convince people. Uh, people are either into it or not, but I honestly fully believe the opportunities here are just incredible. And then I met a woman in the elevator the next day, and we were talking about the weather. She was here from Maine for a concert. I gave her and her husband passes, and they came. They had never, and I have never once had a conversation with anyone about this space, about crypto in general, about art, blockchain, anything that went negatively. And I don't know, because it's just how I firmly believe about it. And when Brain Pasta was talking about my job, I have a background in art education. I've done a lot of fringe things throughout my life. I've always kind of looked around in tech. I did early metaverse stuff. I have a long list of like bizarre attributes to what I've done. And because of Clubhouse, I was talking about some of the metaverse stuff I did, and I got brought in to this scene into a job with Not Fungible. And I ran an artist incubator. I did all sorts of stuff with them, which rolled over into me meeting Ed Zipko from Super Chief through that position. And then when I left there, I reached out to Ed, and now I'm project manager for Super Chief. So this wasn't in the line of like where my career was going before Clubhouse and before the pandemic, but my weird skill set of all the things I've done does not suit me better than working in Web3. So It is. It's a space where when we talk about artists not being gatekept, nobody's gatekept, I want to say. Like, you do have the opportunity to reach out to people and try to do the things you want to do that maybe in a Web 2 environment, I don't think I would have ever been able to walk into a traditional gallery and get hired over someone else if they didn't know me first, because I didn't have the resume for that. I don't think I could have been project manager at a high level in a Web 2 company because of the experiences I've had in my job history. It's not going to compare to someone else that went to school specifically for that. But my skill set fits this job like immaculately. So, yeah, like I've said it since I've been here, if there's something you want to do and you have a passion for it, not only to be an artist, but like any kind of aspect in this space, like people are typically just as open, So there's my my ramble. Oh, thanks for letting me talk.
Can I just give you mad props for giving tickets out to the randos in the elevators and at the hotel? I think that's genius. And yeah, there were some people, some outsiders definitely at the show. And I think they got a great taste because there was a great mix of physical and digital. Just gonna give some flowers to FDOT, for example. I think when you walked into the Canal Street show, you were greeted first by physical. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I think for normies walking in, it didn't feel too strange, too different, too new. As you walked around from left to right, there was literally a bridge from the physical to the digital. So you had the physical paintings as you walk around to the left. Then you get to a essentially like a bookshelf that had the infinite objects on there, and then you got to the digital side. So I thought that was a great transition. But yeah, we had good success at Subjective too, Plotsky, and it was great running into you there, by the way, and getting to hang out. But it's such a cool effort to see you going the extra mile just to have the conversations with the regular, everyday people. Not just the conversations, but literally bringing them into the show. And once they got to the show, there was a great mix of that physical digital, which I think built an excellent bridge to those outsiders. So I would echo what you had to say there for sure.
Yeah, and the interactive stuff on the 5th floor, that was really cool for people too, because they got to see it wasn't just them looking at the art on the screen, like they got to interact, which, yeah, that show was put together like wonderfully. Like that whole thing was run perfectly. I like Dotan and Clay did an amazing job, and the rest of the staff there at Loom, which they always do, but that was a lot to put together. I mean, 5 floors of things happening and music and just everything. I'll say one more thing quick. Just this might be interesting. Um, a year ago, I was teaching an NFT course at Otis College of Art and Design in Los Angeles. It was an extension course, so anyone could pay to take that course. And I was very nervous, like, because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was going to have a class full of people that were going to be maybe negative or challenging, or, I just wasn't sure. And that was also a great experience. It was mostly teachers that were in high school, middle school, and they wanted to learn about this whole scene so they could go back to their students who were curious. So it was a lot of art teachers. There were some students, art students, and then traditional artists that wanted to understand the scene. And boy, that was, again, everyone was extremely positive. And because honestly, if you're here and you believe in this, you have the answers to why this, that, and the other thing happens. So whenever someone would bring up like a negative they had heard in the media or had questions, there was always just a simple, logical answer. So that whole thing went really positive. And the best part was the very last class, I held it on Twitter Spaces. They all had completed something and minted something. So I brought them here for them to talk about it, because one of the parts of my course was how to promote yourself, like not just how to do the tech side. And then we had case studies I took a bunch of artists, and showed what they had done, how it worked out for them. But when we came on Twitter Spaces, I had about 30 of my artist friends that you've all interacted with in the space with them. And a lot of them said, wow, you weren't bullshitting us, like, because they thought a lot of what I was saying was crazy. But then I brought the real people and they got to ask them the questions. Some of them they were asking me and they got the same answers. So yeah, I don't know. I love everything about all of this. So whenever when you're focusing on something crummy that's going on here, just, do your thing. Don't focus on the negative, like take the positives and build your life off it. Like we have a great gift being able to be here, I believe.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I love that mentality just in general. And thank you so much for sharing that last bit because I had no idea. I mean, hearing about classes like that are going on makes me super excited about, where the space is going. I did want to quickly take a second. I know Milton was giving flowers, so I want to take a second and go back to Subjective Art Fair very quick. And I know Sinbad, I think, is listening in the audience. He had one of the floors and him and his team were presenting art on digital screens, and just PTSD from my personal experience at the Crypt Gallery and, having to manage so many different screens and using every brand under the sun. I mean, I think the presentation is so important and I constantly reference it. Like Tiffany's wraps the box a certain way for a reason. It's extremely difficult to onboard and to explain to someone why this digital artwork is worth anything when it's not packaged and presented the right way. And so I loved getting to see and getting to meet him and his team this weekend with their presentation and how clean and crisp and just professional it was, which I think, Web3 needed. So I just wanted to quickly shout him out as well. And yeah, it was just great getting to meet everyone. And what I also really liked about the fair was that a lot of these people were coming in from like social apps like Parlor. I've never heard of Parlor before, but a lot of people were coming in from like other apps, Eventbrites and stuff like that. So Loom did a great job just bringing in new audiences, which again is what we need. Okay. Gray, I believe, was next. So I'm going to hand the mic over. Thank you so much for being so patient. How are you, GM?
GM. Oh, I am so nervous to talk. But yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Hey everyone, my name is Gradient. My real name is Shantanu. So I think what I'm doing for the onboarding thing is very, very, very small interaction. It's just a ripple. But yeah, like I am from the VFX industry, and like we have worked on some cool Hollywood and Bollywood projects. Like few of them included like The Last of Us, Dune to Nimona, and some Bollywood movies as well, Kalki, and like we have few more in the line. Uh, so we actually work in the VFX industry, which is very different, which is like the web. You can consider it like Web 2. It is not related to NFTs. I remember when I was just creating content on my Instagram and was doing jobs and internships in game dev and everything. Uh, a friend of mine who's joined into the NFTs told me to, he saw my art style and he was like, bro, you would do good in NFTs. He was like that. And I at that point, I was like, what the app is NFTs? I don't know. Because I'm never been, exposed to the Web3. So I dodged him. And after 6 months, I was like, okay, let's just give it a try. And then when I entered the first space, like here in this space, we all have these legendary talented artists right here. That's why I'm actually very nervous to speak. But when I heard about artists and when I heard about their art styles and everything, I was like, oh God, this is very different. This is very different for what I've been doing since like in my jobs and everything. And then I started exploring my own art, and it grew on me. And of course, as a passionate artist, I started talking about it to my company friends. So what we do generally is like along with the project, if sometimes we are free, we generally pick up on some freelance projects. And I tried promoting about how NFTs work and how Web3 works. And
Gray, real quick, I don't want to stop you, but can you just please make sure to speak directly into the mic? It's a little bit fuzzy. I want to hear
oh my
exactly what
God,
you're saying. No, you're good. You're
sorry.
good.
Cool.
That's better. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So I started promoting more NFTs to them, and they were like, "Okay, bro, would you be able to teach what you are doing and how we can move forward with that?" is it like freelance? I told him, no, it's not freelance. It's just you will have to think about making what you want to make, uh, creating a collection, exploring what kind of work you want to do, and talking about it into the spaces and meet new people from uh, different countries, and explore, and some of them actually joined in and they started doing NFTs, and some of them did really really good. And I was like, okay, wow, this is great. Then I started talking about it on my social media handles, and sometimes on Twitter, sometimes on Instagram. And some of my VFX friends started, they started promoting from their end as well. So yeah, like, it's just happening here, like slowly I can see, huh, that is very hard. My parents understand what I'm doing, but right now in India, if the job market is not that much active, so people are trying their ways to how they can earn through art. And I thought, okay, like, this is a very right platform to talk about it, like how you can onboard new people who want to explore about art, and they have so much of experience. They just have not tapped the market yet, and they don't know how to tap. So I just want to talk to them, and I'm trying my best. But yeah, this is what the condition is. This is what I wanted to add. Like, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks. Great. Go
No,
ahead, boss. You got it.
no, I was just gonna say thank you for jumping in, and I think it goes back to what Violet said. Like a lot of it comes down to word of mouth and being able to spark curiosity in people that maybe you're connected to, and start having those conversations. So completely agree, and there's no need to be nervous, Greg. Thank you so much for jumping in and sharing your thoughts. Milton, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think we were gonna give it to Rachel after, right?
Yeah, well, Rachel said she would be kind enough to go last, as a matter of fact. So I see Andrea is up on stage. Trevor has his hand raised, and then perhaps we can close out with Rachel. Would that work?
Rachel, oh, Rachel, if it's, I know your time zones are a little whacked, so if you want to jump in, go ahead. I don't want to.
Oh no, like if the space is closing after a couple people, that's great. Yeah, I just can't be up for another like four
Yeah, go,
hours.
Rachel. Rachel, just go first. Don't worry about it, girl. You're in like a crazy time zone right now, so don't be polite. You're allowed to go first.
Okay, I will try to keep this super short and sweet, even though I have like 2 pages of notes. Everyone has just pointed out some amazing points about onboarding, how what their experience has been in this space, and we can all agree because we are in this echo chamber, as Milt says, this circle jerk. On that onboarding is important. That is the answer. It is. There is no question mark. Um, Personally for me as an artist, because I'm a traveling photographer here in Web3. I travel the world, I live out of my suitcase, and because of Web3 and NFTs, it's been like kind of a crazy, amazing, awesome ride. um, how do I onboard people into this space? And first, I would just want to say that right now, I don't think that technology is really at the point where we can mass onboard people. Yes, there's a lot of like educational things out there, which I think are so vastly needed, but it's still the culture here and I guess the way that we're doing things in this space still has a lot of growing room to just improve before I can, onboard my grandmother or my aunts into this space who are not, artists, who are not collectors, or who are not even like social media people. That's just one point. Okay, so really, really quick, how do we onboard? And my first point, I know, Vasia. Okay, you can cut me off anytime as well. But my first point is for those in the space right now. It's to my echo chambers. Before the rest of my points, my other 5 points are about, onboarding others outside of Web3. Okay, so my first point is that artists here in Web3, we need to get more involved. We need to speak up and we need to shape the experiences that other people have by discussing with these builders and founders and devs and these tech people and shaping, the culture that is what we're a part of. Like Trevor said, like art evokes emotion. It's what brings humanity to this technology. Um, this is why we're all here. It's not just to make money. It's to like, the reason why most of us have stayed through this bear market is because of the connections of the people, of not just, selling like crazy or selling for high amounts, but it's for the people, the culture, the emotions that we have. Okay, my first point on how to do it. We need to not just focus on this app. Like Vasia, I think you said before, you know, several people actually have said this. The power of in real life events are probably the best sort of like point of contact for many people to get onboarded or curious into the space. But first, one needs to make contact online. Like, I think that's okay. It's like a softer connection point. It's a softer introduction of, meeting people, on the internet, and then suddenly meeting them in real life. And that gives more depth to those few moments that we have together. Like, I've only met like Milton like maybe twice, and if you actually add it up to the amount of time we've actually spent in real life together versus like online together versus like just knowing about him, it's not that much. But yet I know I'm throwing you under the bus, but I love Milt so much and more than some of the people I've met and hung out with for far longer. I think that's what a lot of us can see in this space. Which brings me to my second point. We need to have fun. We need to have more fun in this space. I think a lot of us have just felt so desperate and sad and rugged and all of that. If you're not having fun in this space, there is no way in heck anyone else is going to be wanting to come join us. There is no way where people are going to be like, oh yeah, that's not a scam. That actually sounds like a cool time. Like, come on, like people, seriously. Like, we have to use our own energy. Like, Polsky, I think how you pronounce your name. I'm sorry, I just kind of butchered that. But like, I felt your energy, your excitement, just your belief in what you're doing. And if I wasn't part of the space, and even though I am still, I'm like, oh yeah, girl, I'm following you. I want to be more involved. Not just because you're connected to like Super Chief or whatever. I was just listening to you, and that sparked my curiosity enough to like go to your Twitter and like go to your profile and then actually hit follow, because now I'm more invested. I'm invested because of that energy. And I think people's friends will be more invested by just you being excited and having fun than just you making a lot of money. Okay, number 3, show your failures, but focus on the lessons. And this is really important. People feel more confident if they feel like they know about the scams, they know about the rugs, they know about the mistakes, because it helps them to avoid them as well. Sharing failures humanizes you on the internet, and not just to your friends, but to strangers. And it makes you a real person online. It brings that trust. It gives that social proof. It brings the lessons that provide a value that help others who are curious but not on board yet. Yeah, like sharing your experiences, sharing those failures, but focusing on those lessons is a value point that anyone can have and provide to those inside and outside Web3. Okay, last 2 points, I promise, I swear. Oh wait, no, last 3 points, and these are just super quick ones. How we onboard people into this space. One, like I mentioned before, we need to be more than just a single app, but we also need to be more and different than what we're posting to those other apps. And that what I mean is we need to give context versus content. Content is the same image posted on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Warpcast, all that stuff. We don't need more of that. I don't know how many of you are tired, but I'm freaking tired of liking the same image from my same beautifully talented, wonderful friends that I want to support, but then commenting on it on 4 different platforms. What makes Web3 different? What makes you here versus somewhere else? And that's the context. The context brings people on a journey that you're having here in Web3. That is enticing, it's engaging, and the value isn't selling or trading shitcoins or art. The value is the people and the community and the connections you are making here. So I just want to like encourage people, not just artists, but people to really give the context and really focus on that and not just the context or bringing value through content. There is value in context. Last 2 points, sorry. And then I'm done. This one's really, really quick. What I said before, champion what you're doing. Champion your art. Believe in it and live it. Because of Web3, I feel like I've been sponsored to photograph humpback whales in Tahiti. I've never done underwater photography, and I don't get super viral shots a lot. Like, I'm not really that big outside of Twitter. Like, I'm a nobody. But then when I got this opportunity, when I championed it and I was proud and I shared it and I was just like, yo, this happened, other people outside of Web3 were like interested. They're like, oh, how did that happen? And that opened a discussion on the value I was getting as a Web3 artist. I cracked that perception that NFTs are a scam just a bit for some people. And that's very valuable. And I want to just throw it to Violet here. She said something really great about how do we onboard. And she said something about like set yourself up for a win. And I know that sounds backwards. It's like, yeah, of course I'm going to set myself up. But we have to start small. We cannot focus on the full staircase of like, okay, we're going to get here to like 1 to 60 within 2.5 months and like, boom, voila, millionaires. Like, no, we got to focus on the first step. And that first step has to be obtainable. And how we do that is by just focusing on just connecting with people outside of Web3. Because people can do that. Even if you're an introvert like me, you can do that. You can set yourself up for the win, start small, and just reach out to your friends. That is a very doable how to get people interested and on board. Okay, that is all. I love you guys. I can't wait for the space tomorrow. And thank you for listening to my TED Talk.
Thank you for jumping in. Rachel, I'm going to go ahead and just add a few points that I was waiting for you to bring up. But one of the things that just overall I think contributes to onboarding, especially when we're talking about, again, people that are not familiar with the technology and all that, is providing actual proof of concepts. And you're cooking something in the background right now that I'm going to tease very quickly. And if people want to hear more, I definitely recommend joining our space tomorrow at noon for the Crypto Angels space Milton and I host. But you're doing a project where it's an endangered rhino species, and I'm forgetting exactly where they're located, but essentially you're using NFTs to not just document this endangered species. They've barely been photographed. This is like a huge problem. They're almost extinct, and you're also fundraising to donate to a good cause and to the charity that's tied to this, and introducing people that are not familiar with NFTs, but you're kind of merging and having a real world impact through the technology and through your art. And so you're kind of connecting all these dots. And it reminds me, what Trevor did with the Castle Party and the auction for Maggie's, which is a cancer society that supports families that, unfortunately they're going through a very difficult part of their lives. And he had a ton of art auctions that fundraised and donated over $100,000 for a good cause. So again, I think it's people using NFTs and art and doing so in a way that's more impactful and larger than us. And I think that's what's also going to catch not just mainstream attention, but also in terms of media and exposure. I think it's something that, gets covered in the press and helps us break out and show a proof of concept of, hey, like, we're not just Web3 degens. We can do other things with this and other applications. And it's not just FTX and crypto and, PFPs. Like, there's more to this than meets the eye. And I think that's ways in which we're going to break the stigma, is just seeing people like you, like Trevor, use this technology to again, just create a larger impact. So, all right, I know there's a few more hands. Andrea, I don't know, you or Trevor can jump on in.
I'll jump in very quickly. Sorry, Andrea, but we're actually going through.
No, I was actually going to let you go ahead. No worries at all, Trevor.
It's 7:30 here, and we're just kind of in the middle of dinner, and we need to kind of wrap it up here quickly. So I just I'm here. Violet's here as well. Hi, Andrea. How you doing? How's Canada treating you? Anyway, two quick things because my steak's getting cold. Number one, just the kind of going back to last year, talked about onboarding, and probably the biggest thing I've done. I mean, there's things at the council party, and that's great, but that's really, again, everybody already in the space. Although saying that, when I was just in Canada the last few weeks ago, there was like about 5 people, friends, that said they want to come to the castle party. So you never know, I might get some more normies coming next year to it. But it was the oath. So during it was the May 6th, the King's coronation, and I collaborated. I worked with the Evening Standard. Here they're based in London. It's like, I think it's London's or the UK's 3rd largest newspaper. And I did a collaboration. I created a painting of the King's crown and worked with Apollo Entertainment, the developers of Satoshiverse, and created an absolutely beautiful animation representing the crown going up over the UK, United Kingdom, into the space, and it was basically a representation of the King's coronation, and they wanted to actually charge for it, and I said, no, this is not about money. This is about spreading the good word of NFTs and art, and also kind of saying that this is a responsibility of the king and his responsibility towards the people, the 60+ million people of Britain, and that this should be a free artwork for anybody to collect, and actually anybody in the world. So they agreed to do that. We created with Nifty Gateway an open edition, free open edition, and something like 20,000, just over 20,000 editions were minted. And I talked to Nifty Gateway after, there's over 10,000 new addresses. So there was a huge onboarding opportunity. And, I know that there were some of my bigger collectors going like, oh my God, Trev, what are you doing? You're saturating the market, blah, blah, blah. It's like, there are obviously discussions and debates around artists doing open editions. But again, I think if you're an artist, you create work, and the mechanisms that you use to distribute that work need to make sense. And you have to be able to say, this is the reason why it's a 1-on-1. This is the reason why it's an edition of 10. This is the reason why it's an open edition, that kind of thing. And I gave the explanation as to why. And so it was a huge onboarding moment for me and for the world of NFTs. Second thing is it's very, very hard. I said before, and as Rachel brought up, that art is the conduit. It's the emotional conduit. It's the thing that brings people together around this technology, which is great. But we still are frowned upon by the vast majority of the art world. And giving you an example, I've had over the last few years, like things really took off for me in 2020, 2021. So we're talking 3.5 years now, and I've had a number of art students from Edinburgh College of Art here in Scotland reach out to me, asking me if I would talk at the art college, asking me, or why haven't I? There's been 2 who've actually written and researched me for their dissertations, and not once has any art institution in Scotland reached out to me, from the Royal Scottish Academy to Visual Arts Scotland, even to Edinburgh College of Art, which I graduated from in 2008. So it just shows you that there's enormous skepticism of this space. And even with, I think in 2021, I was one of the highest earning artists in the country. And not once has any single arts organization reached out to me and said, hey, do you want to come and put on a talk? Do you want to come and talk to our students? So, we can fight all we want. But we've got a enormous challenge, worldwide, because that really is unfortunately the kind of the way that we are perceived in the art world worldwide. So it sucks, but last thing, the future is digital. 100%. We all know the future is digital, and sounds funny coming from me, a traditional artist, a painter. I paint oil on canvas. The future of art is digital too. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of traditional artists who will disagree with me, but let's just see where we are in 10 years. So it's going to take time, but we will get there.
I'm so happy you brought all those up, Trevor. All those points. I actually want to point out my cousin was in London when the oath went live, and she literally was reading the newspaper, and she's like, "Voss, this NFT thing you do, look, it's in the paper." Like sending me a photo of it, and she ended up going on Nifty Gateway and minting one, and signing up and creating a wallet, and just thank you so much because you have onboarded so many people. Into the space, people like myself that actually wouldn't be here had you not done things like the Oath or the Bitcoin Open Edition, the Bitcoin Angel Open Edition. So you've had a tremendous impact on the space. And although I feel like, yes, you're right, there is a lot of work and still a lot of things to build. I think it's people like you and platforms like Nifty Gateway, where it's still like, Web 2.5. It's ways in which people are familiar with that we're going to be able to onboard it. And that's why I emphasize a lot of the IRL events because it's tangible. People can see it. You can talk to them in person, but it's also platforms like Nifty Gateway that use. And someone commented in the comments had mentioned the fiat onboard being huge. Like it has to be something people are comfortable and familiar with. It's an email and a credit card. They're online shopping. It's not a wallet. They're not dealing with crypto. It has to be something that they feel comfortable and secure with for them to kind of dip their toes and take that first step. So I really appreciate your contributions, obviously, to the industry. We should all be thanking you so much, and obviously to the conversation. On that note, I'm going to kick you off the stage so you can go enjoy your dinner.
Thank you. I just want to say goodbye to all of you. So sorry, Andrea. We got to run. Rachel, nice seeing you. Brain Pasta, Plotsky, Gringo, Wizard James, all you guys. Yeah, I see you down there, Old White Dragon. Yeah, we're going to enjoy our steaks and watch a movie, but it's been really fun listening to everybody here. And congratulations, Vasia and HardArt, for your inaugural #1 Twitter X space with the two of you. I feel a little bit hurt, but I will survive. So all the best to you guys, and looking out for big things for you in the future.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Trevor.
Get out of here.
I love all the love Trevor's getting on these emojis. Awesome. Enjoy your dinner, guys. Thank you again for joining. Andrea, thank you for being patient and giving Trevor the mic. We'll hand it right over to you. You can go ahead and jump in. GM, it's super nice actually seeing you. I haven't spoken to you in a minute, but I hope you're doing well. And I know you've been doing a lot of onboarding and IRL back home, so feel free to tell us all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I just want to say hi to everybody. I know quite a few folks that are in the space. Of course, Vasia and Milton. I forgot who said earlier. Was it Rachel? Did you run into him only twice? Oh my gosh, Rachel, I'm laughing because I ran into Milton unintentionally like at least 6 or 7 times in real life events, and we don't even have to try. So I just think it's kind of funny. I just wanted to share that. We ran into each other in Paris, eh? Milton, like 7 times. It was a little wild, but and there are so many nuggets that were shared in the space today. I also have to say that Plotsky, I absolutely loved your energy as well. I wanted to make that known because that's what really, that energy is contagious. And especially when we're in spaces like this, when we go to in real life events, especially those who are new, when you see energy and you attract energy and you're experiencing that energy, it really makes such a difference. So big props to all of you. And I love, Rachel, all your points. There's just too many good nuggets here that I can go on forever about, piggyback on all of them. But I really just wanted to share like actually a recent experience I had. And it kind of really touches upon a lot of the topics that were mentioned in the space today. I live in Ottawa. I'm in Ottawa, Canada. So yes, Trevor, I know he's not here anymore, but Canadians all the way. And so I live in Ottawa, the capital of Canada. And so Web3 is still relatively slow in terms of progress within the capital here. I find Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver are definitely a little bit more ahead of us. So it gives us a bit of a challenge there. But I'm a part of the Web3 Ottawa community. And there was an event last night called Tech Tuesday. So every, I believe it's the first Tuesday of every month, they host it. And it was my first time going, and it honestly was really interesting. But what really wanted to share the most was that there was a lot of people there that had no clue about crypto, blockchain, but they were curious. That curiosity was really awesome to witness. And I got to help the Web3 Ottawa people at the booth. And we were onboarding people to Coinbase Wallet, for example. And we also commissioned an artist to be able to provide their work and to give people an experience and to be able to mint their first NFT like right in front of us. And I've been onboarding for quite some time. And for those who don't know me, I've been in the space for almost 4 years. So onboarding is like, it's something I do quite regularly. But one thing I realized pretty quickly, and sometimes it humbles me a bit, is that you get to a point where you've onboarded and you reach a point where like, yeah, I've onboarded this many people. At times it's not easy, and sometimes it was easy. It really depends on a number of factors. And yesterday it really humbled me because I met a couple people at the booth that, even though I've explained in many different ways, for example, what is an L2, right? It just went over their head. And I was like, damn, like normally how I explain things is usually, for the most part, at least what I'm getting, people are actually understanding what I'm trying to educate and what I'm trying to teach, right? And it put me in a position that moment. It's like, damn, you know what? I think maybe I need to do a better job. I need to find other ways of how I can share this information so that more and more people can truly understand, right? But one of the main points I was getting was that they weren't understanding at that point what the value was. And they thought the technology was cool. They thought, this is so cool. I have an art piece in my wallet, but why do I want to use this wallet? What other means that should I be using this wallet for? So that just really pushes us. And I know as an artist, as a creator, you know, I have my own motivations as to why I'm in this world. One, obviously because of connections, right? But for those who are outside of the space, that may not be their motivation, right? So really truly understanding what their motivations are and what exactly are some use cases or some really simple use cases, you know, at the back of your head of, hey, you can do this, or you can do this. You can send money to your family in a different country, you know, things of that nature. So sometimes it may not necessarily, as a creator, I'm so focused in the creator economy bubble that sometimes I need to get out of that creator economy bubble and really emphasize that there are so many reasons as to why someone would think being in this world would be valuable and why they would choose to be on chain every day, right? There was great panel conversations, like, and similar to Plotsky with just her energy. These panelists had the most amazing energy, and you can tell that everyone in the room was so laser focused on what they were sharing at those panels. So I have to give props because that really does make a huge difference to really engage audiences, especially if they're so new. So I say to everybody here that enthusiasm, your passion is going to really help people in a lot of ways. And that's what's helped me over these past 4 years to onboard more people. They can hear me talk about it. When they hear me talk about it, they're like, holy crap, like this girl is like, she's really loving this. She really loves this world and what it brings to her world. I want to be part of that too. Like I want to feel that passion and that excitement and that energy too, right? So one last thing before I kind of end my note here is that I know for those who maybe kind of, or who are in the audience potentially who are still new relatively to the space, and you're wondering to yourself, like, what can I do? Like, I feel like I'm still new, I'm still kind of small, or, you know, how can I make a huge contribution? Like, I mean, Trevor and Violet, like, I have mad respect to both of them and what they've done. Same with Vasia and with Milton, both what you both have been contributing to the space for all these years. You know, those are on a very large scale, right? But for those who are wanting to make that big impact as well, as Violet mentioned, start small. That one small thing can grow into something much larger than you can imagine. I'll give an example. I spoke as a keynote speaker at my high school graduation last year, and I spoke about my journey as in Web3. And this woman, I don't know her age, but her daughter was graduating that year. She messaged me on Facebook Messenger and said, hey, I want to be a part of this. How can I do it? And now to this day, her work has been featured on Coinbase Wallet front page multiple times. She has made a lot of money from just sharing her art. She had zero expectations. She has a small following on all social media, and she's been able to help her daughter with some of her university expenses. So, as I said, you know, something as small as speaking to a crowd who are not natives, they're not a part of our world at all. You just don't know who could be in that audience or who you can change their lives, right? So try not to think too big, set realistic expectations for yourselves, and you just may be surprised on how you can really impact someone.
Damn, my girl, working on the ground and bringing in so many people. I love the work that you've been doing. If you guys are not familiar, check out Andrea, give her a follow. Just thank you so much for sharing the stories. And I mean, I specifically, you were mentioning before about having conversations with people and them not getting it. And I think that's definitely important to, you know, first of all, thank you for sharing that.
I think, okay, for those that might not know, my background is actually in education. I used to be an elementary school teacher. So, one of the things that I'm very familiar with is educating and, most importantly, providing different entry points for people. It's almost like reading the room and understanding the audience. And, when I used to work at Crypt Gallery, one of the things that was so intimidating to me was like most people assumed my background was like art historian or, some kind of art background, and I had none outside of my high school art class that honestly no one took seriously at the time, and I kind of regret not taking it more seriously. But my point being, when you provide people like understanding what really is going to resonate with them, what are they going to connect to the most? Like we know Web3 and in general the technology, there's so many different entry points in which you can explain the technology, and really finding what's going to hook that audience and what's going to bring them into the space is super important. And Andrea, I love the fact that you kind of acknowledged the fact that it didn't click for them, and that you kind of had to pivot your pitch in a way. And it's super important to have people like you that are passionate, and the energy shows. And we can tell just from listening to you guys speaking here today, that definitely impacts the viewers. And that's insane. The fact that you went to your high school graduation and got to speak and connect and bring people in. And I think a lot of it is, the conversations we're having or the things that we're doing. We don't even realize who's watching and who's following, and continue to do for the space. And it's great seeing people like you involved. But I'm gonna give you the mic.
I don't know if you were handing it to me, Vasia. Sorry, I'm cutting in and out a little bit, but I would totally echo what Andrea has to say as far as attending the high school graduation. That's wild. To have somebody hit you up on Facebook Marketplace is too funny because we don't interact here on Facebook at all. I've joked about it in the past, but actually, I've seen some really interesting people in our space interacting on places like Facebook and LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a place I hadn't thought of till my friend Jamie, who's over on the music side, decided to host content over there and has a really good reception. So, talking about this app, Rachel was talking about being on this app all the time. I'm guilty as charged, but I think it's worth exploring some of the other areas. So, real
I'm
quick,
going on Craigslist. I'm gonna start
Craigslist.
shilling. I'm gonna start shilling Web3 on Craigslist, bro.
Let's go, man. I got a bunch of free NFTs. If you'll just come get them out of my wallet, you don't have to pay anything.
Anybody show up, you get NFTs.
No, for sure. Real quick, Vasi, I think I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing some of the guests, so I'm going to drop out and drop back in real quick. But
Yeah,
I think we
go.
had at least two more guests that wanted to say hello. I saw Tuggy and Fola Hindayo here, so let me drop out and drop back in. I'll join you guys in just a second.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Go ahead. I'm gonna give you the mic. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the name, but Milton did an excellent job. Oh, hi,
All
fam.
right. Jim. So it's pronounced Dio. I'm a Nigerian actually. So quick story about how I got to Web3 before I talk about. One of the major things that actually made me stay in this space. Okay, I think GM Andre. Good day. Yeah. So GM everyone. Sorry. One of the major thing right now was when I actually got into the space. There were a lot of jargons in the space then. That was I think 2021. There were a lot of jargons in the space, a lot of technical terms, and it got having to an extent. I had to like drop off, and I joined in later, which when there were a lot of resources to help me out. So one of the major things first is number one, I in my local community here in Africa in general. One of the major thing is we need more educational resources. Number one. Two, we need to like break down a lot of terms. So I believe Web3 on chain is for everyone, and it's not just like a side gig or a side or something you can do when you are less bored or something, right? I feel like it's something you can embrace as a normal lifestyle, and to actually achieve that, there actually has to be like a level of top resources. And in Africa, yeah, actually we appreciate art a lot. We appreciate art a lot, and then there are lots of underappreciated artists in the country. And we went on a rampage last week to bring in artists to mint their arts on universities. Yeah, we went to like two different universities. We met over like 30 artists. We spoke to them. okay, this is the possibility of bringing your heart instead of keeping your heart in wherever it is and then leaving it, to rot there, right? Why not just try and bring it there? People would appreciate it on Gen, regardless of wherever it is. Just have a story behind it, right? And luckily, we actually found out that there was like an increase in our community. We had from the 30 artists we brought on board, we had over like 25 people, and then 10 are presently active now. And I mean active, they are always bugging my phone. Oh, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And all of that, right? They are happy to know what's the next thing, right? And then talking about educational resources also, yeah. Also, yeah, I belong to a community whereby we plan to, what we plan to do is make on-chain and Web3 a curriculum in high schools, right? And that's like the major goal and the target itself. So basic education so much matters. It really so much matters, and that's one thing that we are trying to focus our energy on presently. And I got to learn about Web3 when I was already in my twenties, right? I think I was 25 then, and I had a lot of things doing. I had a lot of things doing. I was confused on that point, like I mentioned earlier. And then I just have to like talk it out definitely, but it doesn't work like that for everyone. So we try and take it to the most basic level. So when you hear about it, you don't have to really so much focus on it, but when you are old enough to start thinking about things, you can now start making life choices, and you will definitely understand that on chain is far much better than the normal internet and whatever it is that you have out there. And then, yeah, also, I try as much as possible to tell people Web3 is not all about the finances, right? It's so much. I don't think that that's been stressed enough, right? A lot of people are focusing their energy on creating financial on-chain apps, which is so much nice. I mean, but it's more than that. It's more than that. I mean, one of the winners of the on-chain summer build from Africa was a musician. He just created an art, a music art, and I mean the whole world fell in love with it, right? That shows you that on-chain is far much bigger than that. And with the advent of a lot of these things and a lot of these little things, right? I really feel like people are coming more on chain. People are coming more on chain, and in my community here, we spoke to over like 300 students. 65% metrics. 65% out of the students actually are on board. We have two high school students actually. One is a writer, who means he's writing, I think, on Mirror. The other person does art. I think he draws comic or whatever it is he does. And then, these are things that we really so much like to do. We like to talk about at the most basic level. We like to break it down. Before we tell anyone about the incentive part of Web3, we just tell them about the fact that this thing is a new internet that is far much better than the previous internet that you had. So see it this way, do whatever it is you can do. You have control over it, and no one takes it from you, right? So much, so much important that we talk about these things. And I mean, it has been like a wide increase in the numbers that are coming on board, in the recent times. And yeah, that's just one thing that we really so much like to focus on. We like to talk about. And yeah, we hosted a hack day. A hack day. I think yeah, that was on Monday. Yeah, I think on Monday. Yeah, we hosted a hack day where we brought in people who don't know about Web3 at all. We just told them to come around, build products. So there's a present build-a-thon going on. We told them to come around, talk about whatever it is they wanted to build. And one of the major things is everyone is a creator. Everyone has an idea they want to bring to life, and that was what we tapped into. We tapped into the possibility of those things that people can create. And then I mean, there are a lot of people now trying to create solutions so more people can come on board. So, in as much as we're trying to prioritize some certain things, let's also prioritize building value in people, building on-chain value in people, so they can actually bring in more people. You can't definitely do it. You have to talk to more people and give them the value at which they can also share to other people. So, like I would always say, and I'll keep on saying, one at a time, and the whole world is on chain.
Thank you, Polahindayo. Man, a couple things that you pointed out there that I don't think anybody has brought up today is the different forms of media that we can bring online. So I think most of us are primarily focused on the visual arts, but you mentioned mirror, you mentioned writing, you mentioned music on chain. I had some friends out of body that was a part of On-Chain Summer and released a piece of music there. So I'm surprised that hadn't been brought up yet, but I'm glad that you brought that up. And lastly, I would note that bringing in the education standpoint, you're singing music to Vasia's ears right now, who has an education background. But I imagine if we approach people younger than we've done traditionally, it's going to be an easier battle because the younger generation knows cryptocurrency. They've grown up with it, where it's a newer concept for us. So if you're talking to a 15-year-old, Bitcoin has been around since their existence. So completely different conversation you can have with them, where they're going to be more understanding of that because they've never known anything different. And they live online, they live on their phones and their devices. So I imagine it's going to be an easier onboarding experience for the younger generation. So cool to hear people like you and Andrea speaking to high school students in the younger generation. I don't think we've heard enough of that. So I would encourage more people to step into that realm. So thank you so much for sharing. I know we had Tuggy on stage. Tuggy has been so patient. Thank you for waiting. Tuggy, would love to hear your opinion. I think Tuggy will probably be the last person that we have up here on stage, and then we'll have some closing remarks. But Tuggy, GM, how are you?
GM. Yeah, I think what you were talking about just now and the younger generation growing up with Bitcoin. And I think the one thing that is missing is their understanding of inflation. So if you can like break through on that respect to illustrate to them the effects of inflation, poor monetary policy along with government intervention, and then on top of that the Fed and what they're doing with interest rates, like they're all like, it's an amalgamation of techniques that will be developed to stay current, but more importantly to protect the value of the dollar that they've created, whether it's in tech or the traditional world. That was a tangent because the reason I came up was just I wanted to say hey to Vasia because been a long time Mad Rabbit person. I know that's where I kind of met her. First time I had an interaction was through shilling a Kutar chapters to the Crypt Gallery and wanting to get them in all these really cool places. And the thing that made me think about getting up here was just a look at yourself as sort of an instrument that needs sharpening. And if you're genuinely curious about what this space can do to you, I can just tell you from like an amateur technologist perspective with 20 years experience in innovating companies and stuff like that, you really just got to be a student to the process and adapt to the changes that present themselves. And a lot of the people that came up and spoke, I've been following for a while, like Plotsky. I've been following her for a real long time. Vasia, Trevor, big Bitcoin angel person. Have those. Was supposed to go to one of the IRL parties, but then COVID hit, so I got stuck. It was a bummer, and just remember that this space is going to change a lot. Any industry is going to change a lot, but this space in particular, that's tech forward, it's going to be a lot of changes that happen. And if you just kind of like set yourself up for an ability to adapt to the times as they change, you're going to find that this is one of the most fruitful industries you can have. I've made really great contacts IRL. I've onboarded a lot of people. They've lost a lot of money. They'd probably rather not speak to me, but I thought that it was a really great experience overall. And if you can just stay nimble, this is going to be an opportunity that not a lot of people have in their lifetime. So much love to the space and everybody who spoke.
Tuggy, thank you so much for jumping in. And my God, that feels like an ages, like lifetime ago. But yes, I do remember our first initial interactions and love to see that you're still here and still a part of the space and community and contributing. I just want to, I guess, thank everyone who took a second to speak. Milton, I think we are going to reel it in just for a second. Just to say a couple of more points I wanted to bring up before we completely wrap up the space. But I think everyone has kind of overlapped on a lot of key points, meaning a lot of people have talked about their own personal experiences regarding onboarding, which is massive and love to see it. A lot of points regarding education as well. And I think one of the bigger ones was, word of mouth and being able to no matter what kind of role you have in this industry, everyone's able to connect to the people that they know personally and have conversations and try to engage and bring people in that way. I do want to take a second and mention if there's any kind of resources or educational pages. I think someone named V dropped her YouTube channel in the comments because she makes educational content. Like if there's anything that you think is a good resource, I just want to encourage people to tag or drop links inside the chat. I would love to check them out later. But I also want to bring up something that honestly I was expecting someone to mention, but no one really did. I think it kind of was touched upon when Gringo spoke, and he has Amazon tagged up top. For me, one of the biggest things, and I kind of dropped a tweet earlier this morning. My GM tweet was about my personal 3 things that I think, the onboarding is education, which we talked about, the IRL and in person, which we spoke about, but also big brands. And so I kind of want to take the last few minutes of the space to really focus on this because it's my personal favorite one. I think it's the one that's also going to have the largest impact and what's going to really solidify Web3 in general in the future. Because at the end of the day, our key and the door to the masses are brands. Like we all have a limited amount of reach, but once we start working with these companies and bigger brands and established legacy brands, this is how we're going to legitimize ourselves. I mean, we're going to continue being labeled a scam until we start doing things that are real. So just again, one of the things that I'm more passionate about, and we've obviously seen brands enter Web3. We've seen Coke and Pepsi and Porsche and, all these people come in and GM and WAGMI and try to adapt to the Web3 culture. But I think the biggest problem was these brands were being advised to target the Web3 community. And number one, it was inorganic. I mean, we were all mocking them. But number two, what's the point? Like, we are here because we get it. Like, you didn't need to convince us brands. They were just coming in and I guess trying to make their money and, hopefully stick around if it went well. But a lot of them, number one, got burned because they weren't advised the right way. It wasn't organic. They weren't accepted into the community. And, when you get burned, especially at a brand at that level where you're taking a risk, you're not coming back. And unfortunately, I think there was a lot of missed opportunities with a lot of these brands. But also I think the biggest problem was the strategy. Like, it shouldn't have been whoever was advising these brands to come target Web3 communities and drop their NFTs. It should have been, hey, Web3 community, like, let's approach these brands and let's educate and talk to them and really get them to understand how they can be using the technology in what they're already doing. Like, let's enhance your customers' experience with this technology, with even integrating the artist and introducing them to certain artists. And how do we integrate things like what Trevor mentioned with the AR overlays and all these, like, there's so many cool things that we can do to, number one, help brands and help the customer's experience, but also help the brands on the back end with certain, data collection, et cetera, and, rewards programs. And there's so many different ways that you could kind of implement the tech. But that's kind of what I'm personally passionate on. And I mean, I'm going to, I guess, shill my whole shill right now. For those that don't know, I left, I can't believe it's been a year, but I stepped down as COO at the Crypt Gallery, which was an in-person location. And we would throw all these events to onboard and to educate and to reach people that weren't going to go online and look at digital artwork. And I opened my own creative agency a few months ago. And specifically, one of the things that I'm most passionate about with this agency is the fact that I'm talking to certain brands in order to implement the technology in the background and get people to be, it's an NFT, a digital collectible, whatever we want to call it. They don't need to even know it. It's for them, it's an email and a credit card. Like, they're online shopping and it's being embedded in the background. And these brands are slowly starting to, I guess, become more open-minded once we properly educate them. And they see the value that it's bringing to their companies once it's kind of presented the right way. So I think just one of the things I wanted to point out and mention is we need to be working with these brands, because I know Gringo mentioned it earlier, like, they're coming, like, nothing's going to stop them. And Trevor mentioned too, like, digital is the future. I think all of us are here because we know and understand that, like it or not, this is kind of inevitable. So we might as well be advising people the right way and making it very organic. And I would love to see it come from people people within the community, the builders that have been here and understand the ethos of the space. And at the end of the day, whoever's positioned in these leadership roles or in this, strategic advisement roles, like these are the people that are going to dictate the direction of the industry. So that's just kind of my 2 cents. And again, what I'm most passionate about is really onboarding and reaching the people through brands. And I would love to also, I guess, last thing to mention is, we've seen the bull market and we've seen the bear market. And unfortunately, we can't invest all of our eggs in one basket where artists are their main revenue stream kind of disappeared in the last year and they're struggling to kind of survive. And being able to work with brands, now you're exploring a new relationship, a new collaboration, and a new revenue stream so that you can continue to support yourself regardless of your digital art sales. You're now collaborating with other brands and also getting your artwork in front of new audiences that perhaps wouldn't have seen it before. So I guess my personal passion and contribution to Web3 is really trying to connect those brands with artists and create that infrastructure that's going to legitimize the industry and bring us forward in many ways. So that's kind of why I'm most passionate about onboarding through these relationships with brands and kind of doing it the right way. Milton, please take the mic because I've kind of just been rambling now.
No, that's great. And I know you've made huge strides and you're in some important talks that we can't quite leak the alpha of yet. But Vasia is going to make a big splash with the brand. She's already worked with several big ones, but there's a particularly large one that I think is going to land soon. I can't wait to celebrate that win once it comes to fruition. But Vasia is doing the Lord's work and she's trying to bring this to the masses, which is great. That's what we really want to see. It's what we really need in this space. So much vital information that we got from all of our guests who were courageous enough to step on stage today. Thank you so much for sharing. I took a lot of notes and I hope to do a little thread about some of the more important points that I heard from everybody speak today. Really quickly, in a lot of spaces, people do giveaways. We didn't have one planned, but impromptu, I wanted to do a giveaway. If you are interested in something that has helped me onboard, I actually gifted a friend of a friend and their very first NFT. I just helped them get a wallet set up. And there is a piece by Gavin Shapiro. If you like penguins, which I know you do, Rachel Wood, but if you like penguins, there's a great loop from a loop master, Gavin Shapiro, that's called Power. And it's such a cool piece to give away because that person, the holder, now has the power to mint as many as they like. And so all it costs is gas to mint these. There are rarity tiers and you can burn these. It's such a fun concept to play with. But I would love to give you these. If you want one, I'll give you one. Just send me a DM and there's your reward for listening above and beyond all the valuable tidbits that you got today. I'd love to gift you an NFT that is a big help in onboarding newbies. So just send me a DM. My DM should be open. If not, just at me in a tweet and I'll put one of those in your hand. All you got to do is send me your ETH address and we'll get that over to you. But Vasia, thank you so much for having me as a co-host today. I loved it as always. Look forward to our space tomorrow. Join us at the Crypto Angel space tomorrow at noon. Before we go, I did see Gringo Hodl had his hand up, so I want to give Gringo Hodl the last word here.
Oh, no, I just wanted to throw out Vasia. I remember you mentioned in the past you had worked with 10KTF. That is awesome. They had that big brand, Gucci, that they were working with, which was a big deal, very historic in Web3. So I absolutely agree with Vasia that big brands coming into Web3 will onboard the masses. It's a big deal, especially the gaming companies and all that too. Big, art brands, fashion, luxury, everything. So absolutely. And then as well, the other big brand that just the news broke recently, Lamborghini partnered with Animoca Brands in Web3. So, that's another big partnership. So big brands are coming and they will onboard. Thank you.
No, thank you, Gringo. I appreciate it. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I definitely, again, I think that they're coming and it's about doing it the right way and seeing them kind of release their collections the right way. I think that's the way forward. So thank you so much. Thank you to all of the speakers who came on to contribute. Stay tuned. Milton and I are definitely going to be hosting these on a weekly basis, covering different topics that we think are just like conversations that need to be had. And again, we're open to conversations. Appreciate everyone who contributed, both who came on stage and in the comments. And on that note, Milton, I'll let you kind of DJ us out.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Look forward to being back with you very soon. Look out for the announcements on that next space. And we'll see you tomorrow at noon on the Crypto Angel Space. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for tuning into Moments, the podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe and follow us to keep up with all the latest trending Web3 topics. Join us every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern on X for our live space and be a part of the dialogue.